Well, in my view, I'm going to open it up to the floor in a moment, but these arguments about compromise would be more effective if we had a bureaucracy in this country that had any sense of compromise. As long as they have any power, they use it to the maximum degree available to the bureaucracy. That's why health and safety legislators will stop you doing something if there is a possible risk that they can foresee. And that's why policemen, 220,000 arrests in the metropolitan area investigating terrorist offences. Charges? None arising out of stop and search. So people going about their business in London every day, stopped on a random basis, or actually sometimes not on a random basis. Lord Carlisle said his investigation of that scheme showed that he was systematically stopping people. That's to say a direct abuse of the power they were granted. I see you waving down to the northern delivery. But it seems to be my view that as long as the powers exist, they certainly will be abused. Just try this other way, Douglas, we'll come back to you. When we are surprised, when we are hurt, we often overreact. And that's what we've done as a result of the terrorist attacks from Islamic organisations in this millennium. But that overreaction often only gets seen in hindsight, and the hindsight tells you that your cure that you try to enact is much worse than the disease. I see these organisations as a relatively, I'm not completely minimising it, as a relatively small threat posed by a group of deeply unpleasant thugs who hate us for what we are. And changing what we are as a result of that seems to me thoroughly wrong.
Well, I agree with some of that. Yes, they do hate us for who we are. On the other hand, it's a big group of folks that has statewide power in certain cases. A group of folks that, for instance, has a government and a whole state in Iran, which is able to pump out terror cells from the heart of a nation state. So it's not quite as small a thing as that. Look, the issue you touched on reminded me just before that I started waving frantically. What was it? Stop and search. Stop and search is another example. It's not an effective strategy. That's because it cannot be an effective strategy because it cannot be targeted. Stop and search is one of the best examples of the way in which we do things wrong. There is some certainty, I don't know if you've witnessed this as well, but if you're standing at an airport, just to take as an example, if you're standing in a queue for the airport, I've taken on the chin that I know I'm going to be thoroughly pulled over. I don't have everything in my suitcase that I have carefully packed, thrown around. I take it for granted I'll be the one pulled out of the queue because I'm the one standing in a suit and tie and easy pickings for the searching. I just can't help noticing generally that if I see a group of bearded imams in front of me in the queue and a nun, I just know the nun's going to get frisky. It's one of the guarantees. If you see a car full of big bearded young men who fit the description of most terrorists in this country and worldwide at the moment, which is young men of Islamic origin in this country, Pakistani descent in their early 20s or so, if there's a car full of them, they're not going to get searched, but you can be sure the Women's Institute's not going to have having a go in for that afternoon if they happen to be in a bus. This is just an example of the fatuousness of the way in which we pursue these things. You cannot have security if you override security with political correctness. You can't have it. So you can't hold up to me a bad law operated badly and say it has bad results and expect me to be surprised.
Douglas, I wonder this. You agree on stop and search, you agree on terrorist act being misused by councils. I presume you would also agree that council officers, not even elected councils, but council officers who use powers under the Terrorism Act to see whether you're selling things properly from your shop, or to see whether you live in the right catchment area of the school you're to send your child to. What do you think works from these powers? I mean, you agree with all of those. What's the bit you identify as a success in the incursion of our liberties?
Well, the success is, we know the success. I mean, just another one the other week, the certificate of the airline plot. The security secretary know that the American isn't persuading the people who own the Yahoo account to try to persuade them to hand over information. Incidentally, our security secretary is already right behind wiretapping in our courses that it would, among other things, make terrorists and others more aware of the fact that they're being monitored. In actual fact, the airline plot showed that they're very aware that they're being monitored. The emails that came up in the second time, they were clearly moving around.
They were using code words.
They were using code words and so on. as I say, I remember after the Airline Block trial came to finally, the second time, conviction. Again, bizarrely, I found myself on a program with people saying, how would you like it if your emails are read? And I just was thinking, I don't like the idea at all. Although I feel very sorry for all sod who has to read through all my emails. I certainly don't. But no, I'm not being like that. I simply think that there are things that the government can do. But I come back to your question of what it is we can do in response to this. It seems to me that in this case, as in so many in Britain in 2009, the problem is not simply the laws. The problem is that when laws are abused, there is no punishment for them. And you see this time and again. There is not a significant enough blowback. I think somebody pointed this out recently. Again, I think David Starkey pointed this out recently on the question time that we have a political culture in this country in which there are only rewards to be found. There are no punishments. There are no punishments for failure. There are no punishments effectively for criminality. It's never blowback time.
I think an awful lot would have to change before that came about. But let's open it up to the audience and see what people have got to say. Gentleman at the back first.
To what degree do you think, and you touched on it at the end, the issue is that in the United Kingdom, our judiciary is fairly big compared to the States, where they have a strong Supreme Court that can rule that the executive and the legislature are passing laws that defy the basic liberties. And do you think that what the Conservatives have proposed, that the new code of rights will go a long way to try and cure that problem, to have a stronger set of basic liberties rather than a thin human rights that we have at the moment?
My response first would be, I'll wait and see what's in the text. We will not let matters rest there. It is an answer that's used in more than one regard. I'm very proud of the Conservative Party, but I'd like to know what we think. Douglas?
Well, it's like the judiciary is so problematic on this one. Lord Hoffman was the judge who, a couple of years ago, said the threat. He said the threat here is not from terrorists so much as the government putting forward legislation that's the greatest threat. I think we have a real problem with our judiciary at the moment. I think we have a real problem with their unwillingness to recognise this issue, their willingness to politicise this issue. I think when a judge honestly thinks that it's more likely that Tony Blair is going to come around your house and duck you over than it is that an Islamist terrorist is going to intend harm towards you, the judge would be fantastically frivolous about this threat. And I can't understand why they've ended up there, other than the possibility, like so many on the left in the post 9/11 years, that they remain in this very strange mindset where they honestly see themselves as sort of crusading liberal rights, Shami Chakrabarti wannabes, who sort of sail through with this liberal globe around them, believing in all sincerity that government is this huge thing that wishes them only harm. I see it quite a lot in the States, where you still see the sort of brave underground anti-Dick Cheney movements who really believe that they're being outspoken and courageous when they make a joke about George Bush or something. Sure. And I think our judiciary's got more than a hint of that. Certainly Lord Stein would be another example.
I'm where I answered half the question, I answered the Human Rights Act, Bill of Rights question. As far as the judiciary is concerned, I actually think we have quite a good judiciary in this country. Certainly, compared to other people, we have quite a good judiciary. It is on the whole not corrupt, and it is on the whole, in the main, generally not completely incompetent. So that puts us in the league of nations quite high up. But what I do think they struggle with immensely is the incredible amounts of legislation that this government specifically cranks out, thousands of laws every year. I think that specifically handicaps anyone trying to do a job, and let alone any policeman or any magistrate. What laws are you supposed to be enforcing from day to day?